Before we do that,
You wanted?
We're recording.
okay,
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention at the beginning, we're recording so we can share this with those who aren't here.
Okay.
okay, so, I don't really know how to do this since so many people aren't showing, but I just wanted to get a sense of how many people have Pell Grants.
So they can do the hand
Can you,
raise
can you do
on
the
there.
hand thing? Raise your hand if you have a Pell Grant. Okay, it doesn't look like, does nobody has a Pell Grant?
No.
You guys have Pell Grants, okay. How many people are enrolled full-time in college? If you're going full-time, can you, okay, one person, couple people?
They can do the virtual hand raise too.
Yep.
Okay.
So most, does that mean most, raise your hand or show, indicate in some way if you are part-time in college. Looks like Amy, yeah, so somebody put up that
Annie,
thing.
see, yeah, that's
That
Annie.
thing, okay. So we have some part-time, very few full-time, no Pell Grants. Okay, so that's very useful because we can target what we say better, now that we know that. Now I'm going to hand this over to Jeff. You're gonna,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're gonna do the attachments.
Brian, for some reason this isn't working.
There we go, it should work now.
Oh, okay. So for student aid, what we want to try to do is help you differentiate between the types of money that are available, whether grants, like Barb just asked about Pell Grants, loans, which sometimes are the most readily available, scholarships, and/or something called work study, which may or may not be useful for people. It's important when you're considering these different sources to help you pay tuition and other expenses that some of them need to be paid back. Loans need to be paid back. Others often don't. And so as you're making decisions and considering what's available to you, it's important to think about the longer term, even if it's, requires another application or yet another set of hoops to jump through. Sometimes it's obviously worth it. We're going to talk about the FAFSA form, which I always forget the acronym,
Federal assistance. I don't remember it either.
We'll have it on the
I
tape.
thought I did, I don't know.
But that's critical to starting the whole process, regardless of which of these may be available to you. And then want to make sure you understand who you need to contact at your college, financial aid office, what they're there for, and really importantly, how to approach those conversations. And it really boils down to you need to be your own advocate. And so we're going to kind of stress that.
Jeff, it is free application for federal student aid.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that, Barb, anything else before we?
No, we're gonna go, well, actually, don't turn yet.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, so, what are the four main categories, since we just hit it there? What are the four main categories of money, basically money for college? Well, there's five. The biggest main category is the money that you earn working, or your savings. But that aside, what are the main categories? Can I make this work?
Yes, you can.
You want me to flip that for you, Barb? Sorry.
Okay. So, what's one of the categories?
Loans.
Loans, grants, does anybody up on that board know any others?
And if you want to chat me an answer, I'll be looking at the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and answer a question anytime.
Here's a hint. If you're here
You all
at
got one.
this workshop, you all got one.
Come on, this is an easy one.
Scholarships?
Scholarships.
Question mark?
Okay.
Nice job, Clarita.
Okay, don't take it personally, you guys. And then there's another one. There's a hand raised. Is the Victoria?
Victoria, is your hand up? No,
No.
not on purpose.
Okay, so,
Oh.
It's from the last,
what?
It's from.
it was from the last question.
Okay,
Gabriella says, work study.
yay! Okay, so we're gonna talk about these. Now, are these, is this showing up somewhere?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
if you
up there.
look at
It's on
that
the board.
screen, you can see.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's my, okay, that's my first time.
Yay!
So now, what we're gonna, wanna click one? Okay, which of those four, can they see this?
Yep.
You have to turn that back. Okay, which of those four doesn't need to be paid back?
Scholarships
Scholarships
and grants.
and grants. Okay, except some grants need to be paid back. Does anyone know why some grants or when some grants have to be paid back? Okay. So, some grants come with rules. Okay, some grants need to be paid, come with rules, like you have to keep a 3-point average. And if you fall below that, you have to pay something back. Sometimes, the Pell Grant, if you go below the number of courses you're supposed to be taking, or you drop out, you have to pay a certain percentage back. So, our favorite is scholarships.
Next.
Next one. You
We
might
just
have to
talked
pay it back. We just talked about it. Some grants, you have to pay back. Some grants, they're yours.
Okay.
Next one. Must be paid back with interest. Which one is that?
Loans.
Loans. Loans must be paid back with interest. Does anybody have a loan? You have a loan.
I have some
Ryan has a
graduate
Ryan
loans
has a
still.
loan. Okay. So loans, you can get them from the college, you can get them from the bank. Does everybody know what interest is? What is interest? It's very hard to read, you guys. What's interest? Interest can be good if you get it. Interest can be bad if you have to pay it. What is interest? Okay. I think I'm gonna do this thing again. Just to watch me try to make this work. Okay. So, we're talking about loans. Now we're going to talk about interest. Okay, so loan is when you borrow money. And you have to pay to borrow money. And loan is the money that you pay to be able to use the money.
Interest, I think you meant to say.
I mean, interest is what you pay to be able to borrow money. So, Jeff, what's a good example, an easy interest example to show
For a loan,
for a loan?
so, we're gonna talk about credit cards a little later today, and if you don't pay your credit card off every month, you're gonna pay some interest, so we'll get into that. A car loan is another obvious example. Let's say you buy a car for $10,000 or let me make the math easy. You buy a car for $11,000, you have $1,000 in savings, and you borrow $10,000 for that car. You're gonna pay a payment every month. Part of that payment will be to pay down the $10,000, and part of it is interest, or what you're paying the bank for loaning you that money. The bank or the car dealer or whoever in that example lent you the money. The math can get complicated a little bit, but if, let's say this is a 4-year car loan, without getting into the complexities, you're gonna pay $2,500 a year in principal back, and on top of that, if your interest rate was 10%, you're gonna pay another, and I'm gonna get myself all messed up here. Let's say you're gonna pay another $700 to $1,000 that year for interest. So
Okay.
that's the cost of money.
So principal is how much of the 11,000 you're paying back. Interest is, so you borrow 11,000, but the bank or the car company wants you to pay, has to make money. So they are gonna charge you, let's say $2,500 to borrow 11,000. This number is made up, it's not real. So they give you 11,000, but you also have to pay them 2,500 over time. Because basically you bought $11,000. It's like, here's my $11,000. How much does it cost? Oh, it costs $2,500. But they break it up over each year. You pay some of this and some of this. And this is the interest. And if you're like Brian, you pay it very slowly, year after year after year. Okay. And when you finish paying, you have a big party. Okay. Now, if you have a bank account that's a savings account, the bank, you give your money to the bank. Here's the bank. Okay, is this still showing up?
Yeah?
Oh, this is cool. Okay, here's my bank. And I go to the bank and I put some money in here. And they go, thank you, because I'm gonna use your money to do things. Okay, so I'm gonna give you $1 every year for being able to use your money. So sometimes you get interest, mostly we pay interest. Okay. So loans, you have to pay interest. You're getting lent money, you pay interest. So if you think that you're paying $11,000, you're really paying much more because you're also paying interest. Which is why we love scholarships. And we think grants are pretty great too. And we try not to get loans, but a lot of times we have to. Okay. Now I flip this around, so, oh, look at me learning.
Very impressive, Barbara.
Yeah, I'll say that I can reach this.
I'd say most presenters are afraid of that for some reason.
Oh, this is
So
cool.
you're just going for
This
it. I
is
love
cool.
it.
Okay, so doesn't need to be paid back, scholarship, you might have to pay it back, a grant, must be paid back with interest, loans. What else do we have? often, but not always, based on merit. Okay. Which one is this?
The grant.
A grant can be based on merit, but not as much as
Scholarship.
scholarship. Okay, so merit means you did good. You're really smart, your grades are really high, maybe you're an incredible cellist and the college needs you in their orchestra, maybe you were amazing at science and invented a cure for cancer and they want you to come to their college. Okay. So that's why we say it's often but not always based on merit. And the reason why we say not always is because one of our children got a little scholarship from the garden club because he worked on a farm. He had nothing to do with flowers, but they were looking for any connection with growing things. So I think that was based more on chance.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so
One-
next one.
oh, sorry, two.
Well, I said next one, based on financial need. So grants are often based on financial need, almost always. The Pell Grant, the big one for students with low income, Pell Grant is based on financial need. And many colleges also give grants of their own based on financial need. Does anybody you have your scholarship. Does anybody have a different grant that's not a Pell Grant?
We don't know yet how to do it. After that class, we learn.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So next, do we have another?
Yeah.
Okay. Can be offered, but sometimes can't be used by the student. Okay. That one is actually, well, they're all, sometimes you can't use them because maybe you didn't go get into college or whatever. You had a pandemic and you decided to wait. But work study is one where the college promises you a job. And so then that you will earn a certain amount of money and that will help. So the reason why sometimes it can't be used is that sometimes they run out of jobs, or sometimes you can't find a job that fits your schedule. So the work study one was really big and very popular years ago. I think it's less and less used now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let me turn this off. What, do we have any questions while we're here? Did I put anybody to sleep? Okay.
Oh, Junia has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna talk about this soon, but you said about to put the money in the savings and they're gonna give us $1 a year and it's too low. You're gonna talk about how invest this money, good investment, like, okay, we don't have too much, but every month we can save something. But I don't want to put in the savings because I know that, okay, I'm gonna bring your money and give you $1 every year. Oh, look you. I want to put something else. And I don't know if you have saved, but with maybe a little bit better than just.
So let's talk about savings and investing. We're going to talk about budgeting in a little bit. And let's save that discussion for the budget conversation.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about what do you do when you have something to save.
Okay, yeah, just, I know you're not there yet, but how you talk about it, so maybe you have some ideas, give
Yeah.
some advice.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, so, did I turn this over?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
You ready for the next slide?
Ready for the next slide? Okay, so we're going to show you a video, and then tomorrow you'll actually get it, and you can see it again if you want. And this goes over student aid. We've talked about a lot of it, but this will go over it again. And it will also, as you explained, the first step in student aid is filling out this form. And so this will explain how to do it. And when we send you the information tomorrow, there's a place where you can click and you can go to this website and you can see much more of it. We're not gonna look at the actual form. You have filled out many forms. You're probably the best form filler-outers around, okay? So with all, let's just take it away and watch the video.
You may have heard the expression, life is not about the destination, but the journey. Well, getting an education is an important part of that journey, and you can get money to help you pay for it. Each year, billions of dollars become available through the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA form.
Hang on 1 second, everybody. It's on the wrong screen.
We can start it over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, glad it's you, not me.
Yeah. I don't even know what's happening right now.
Can you make it?
Trying to make sure everyone's seeing her slides too.
Just hang out. I'm sure this happens all the time in class. Okay, here we go.
Can you
Make it
imagine?
full size so that we don't see
Yeah, there we
it.
Perfect.
Okay. So,
It's okay. I know everything that's happening. Maybe not. Okay.
You may have heard the expression, life is not about the destination, but the journey. Well, getting an education is an important part of that journey, and you can get money to help you pay for it. Each year, billions of dollars become available through the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA form. Just fill it out. This application offers access to federal student aid for grants, loans, and work-study funds. States and schools also use the FAFSA form to distribute their own grants and scholarships. Where can you find the FAFSA form? We post the FAFSA form on October 1 for the next school year. It's available at fafsa.gov in both English and Spanish. So, let's get started. You'll need your social security number, alien registration number if you're an eligible non-citizen, and possibly your federal income tax return, W-2s, and other records to show money you earned. You may be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This tool lets you securely transfer information from your federal tax return to the FAFSA form to help you complete it more quickly. In addition, we recommend creating an account before starting your FAFSA form. Your account username and password, called your FSA ID, allows you to sign your FAFSA form and loan contracts electronically. You can also access certain information online with your FSA ID. Your FSA ID is your digital signature. Create your own and only have one. Parents and students should keep their FSA IDs separate. Why? The FSA ID is a legal signature. It shouldn't be shared. Sharing it may result in unauthorized changes to your account, or it may delay your financial aid. Plus, you'll need your FSA ID to renew your FAFSA form each year. So, protect your information by keeping your FSA ID safe and secure. Your FAFSA form has 3 sets of questions to answer. Personal information, which includes your name, email address, marital status, and schools you're interested in. Financial information, such as your income and assets. Certain personal and financial information about your legal parents if you're a dependent student. Not sure about your dependency status? Visit studentaid.gov/dependency to find out who must provide parent information on the FAFSA form. Also, learn what to do if you live with only one parent or aren't in contact with your parents. You can also ask the financial aid staff at your college or career school for help figuring this out, since colleges and career schools use the FAFSA form to consider you for financial aid programs. The form asks you to list up to 10 schools you are considering. Be sure to list a school even if you haven't applied to the school or received an acceptance letter yet. You can always go back and update the list later. One great feature of the FAFSA form is that it may let you skip questions that don't pertain to you. And if you're not sure how to answer a question, you can chat with a knowledgeable agent from our contact center. Submitting your application online, remember, if you are a dependent student, your parent must use their own FSA ID to sign the form as well. Submitting your FAFSA form online is the fastest and easiest option, but you can also fill out and print the PDF version, which you can drop in the mail, or ask your college or career school to submit the FAFSA form for you. If you provided an email address and submitted your form online, you'll receive an email within a few days letting you know that we processed your application. Then, an administrator from any school that you listed on the form and that has accepted you for admission will reach out to let you know what aid you're eligible for at that school. Congrats, you're one step closer to getting money for school and starting on one of life's most exciting journeys. For more helpful resources on eligibility, deadlines, and items that you need to fill out the FAFSA form, visit studentaid.gov.
Oh, they're over there.
I don't know why I have to, let me stop sharing for a second. Oh, they're there.
So has anybody filled out a FAFSA form?
No.
No FAFSA form? Maria, no.
I wonder if there's a challenging status.
That's a problem. So they're depending on your status in the states, you can fill this out or not, but it's worth checking on to see whether you can use this.
Clarita said, a comment I have help from my teacher. So it sounds like she's done one. I can't advance with mine. No, I just.
Oh.
Does that work now?
Yeah.
Okay. So someone has their hand raised.
Oh.
Junia? Where's Junia?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Julia, we can hear you.
Yeah, I saw the only way to be dependable is if you live with your parents. I mean, I'm talking about the situation. You don't have job and you are in the process to have your citizen, and so you are dependable of your husband or your wife. You can work or just for live with parents.
No, so a dependent,
All right, we have to flip it on.
So a dependent, the easiest way to explain it, my guess is you are all dependable, but a dependent, in the definition for FAFSA, if you are younger than 24. Okay. Even if you are actually making most of the money in your family, it's an age-related thing. And the way the FAFSA works is it takes information about your income if you are younger than 24. So let's just start with this. Do we have people who are younger than 24 in this group? So you're younger than 24. Is anybody else younger than 24? Yes?
maybe,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So that means that you have the FAFSA form, they want to see your family income. If you're older than 24, as you are, for example, they want to see your family income, but you don't have to calculate what your parents make. So they want to see your family income because they're looking at creating how much you are going to contribute, called the family contribution. And then how much that you will get. So and so this form does all this calculation. If you're younger than 24, but your parents live in another country, or you're younger than 24, your parents are divorced and you haven't seen your father in 800 years, or, you know, for all these different situations, they have rules. So we can't really answer them all here, but when we send the information tomorrow, there's a link to the family dependent set of questions, and you can go through those to see what you have to do and what you have to answer if you're younger than 24. If you're older than 24, then they're not looking at your parents. Okay. If you're older, they're just looking at how much do you make, how much does the spouse make, who else depends on you. So when you're older than 24 and you have a child or 2 children, all that information gets put in there, and they decide, oh, you have very little income and you have a child, so your family contribution is only going to be $500. And we will give you money to make the rest of it. So again, I'm making these numbers up. These numbers are not real numbers, okay? So you're gonna have to pay, you know, say you're gonna, for 2 semesters and you're going full-time, so you're doing, maybe you're gonna have to pay you're gonna get money of $12,000. Some of it is gonna be a loan. Some of it, because we like you, is going to be a grant. And some of it is going to be work study. So the big idea here is that through the FAFSA, you won't get everything paid for. They are going to ask for some kind of family contribution. You may not get money coming out of one pot. Could be you get some of this kind of money, you get some of that kind of money, you get some of that kind of money. That's why your financial aid officer should be your new best friend. Because your financial aid officer is the one that can help you figure out how this works the best. Okay. My guess is if you came to Brian, he could help you too. So let's go back to this a little bit. Every year you fill out the FAFSA. Why? Why do you think why can't you just do it once? Does anybody have any ideas?
To check on the income.
Your income doesn't stay the same, nor your expenses. Maybe you had another child. Whoop, there's another dependent. Maybe you got a raise. Maybe you lost your job. So every year to check on the income, you have to fill this out. So even though you go, oh no, I have to fill the FAFSA out again. That's what Jeff used to do because he filled it out with our children.
Drove me crazy.
Drove him crazy, and he's in finance. You have to fill it out every year. Okay. The other thing is you fill it out, and a lot of you are in community college. Fabulous, because you're getting a good education a lot cheaper. And then if you want to do 2 more years and get a bachelor's, you take those credits, you transfer, you start to have to pay a little more. So you're really doing great starting in community college, if that's where you're starting, okay? But you fill this form out and you tell them where you think you're going to go to college, where you'd like to go to college, where you're applying to go to college. This is especially important if you're going to make that transfer from your associate's degree to the next one. And then they get in touch with the schools and they give information to the schools. So it feels a little crazy because you think, shouldn't it be first the school wants me, then this, then that? But it's more like the schools say, this is how much money we can give out. This is how much money the federal government's giving out. And it all is working at once. Questions? Oh, so the other thing that isn't up here as where to get money for school, and it's happening more and more in the last 3 years, is your company, if you're working. If you're working in the US, a lot of companies now are giving money for college. And they're doing it in a number of different ways. Some companies say, if you take a class and it's related to what you do in your job, we will pay, we will pay for that class, or we will pay $2,000 for that class, depending on how much the class costs. Does anybody know about this in their companies? So if you're working, and it's best to be working full-time, but some companies do it for part-time people, the person to ask about this is your supervisor. So ask your supervisor, does the company support education? Ask your HR representative, human resource person. Look in your handbook. Do you have a handbook from where you work? Look in your handbook and ask about it. Nobody's going to come up to you and go, hey, let me give you some money for college. But you can ask. And they'll give it to you. Now, the other thing is, as you probably know, many companies are having a hard time getting workers now. And so they're offering literally college support. So Starbucks and Amazon, and I have a list of them there, UPS. And they have different rules, but they will pay for your entire college. Usually it's via an online college. If you start and you have, so you go through your Bunker Hill, for example, do your associate's degree, then you can finish a bachelor's degree online working for Starbucks, and they'll pay for it. So that's just something to think about, because it's really a good value.
We have 2 comments.
Okay.
Victoria says you do have to apply for these programs and very rarely people qualify. So it's a comment.
Interesting.
And Hajara says the disadvantage about this is they want you to be full-time, which is very hard to be a student.
Right, right. It's true. Nothing makes it easy, but if you can find a way to do it, it's useful. So I've gotten some classes paid for from where I went to work. So it's like, everybody should be checking into this.
You want to flip over, or you gonna read the board more?
I'm gonna flip it over. Yeah, and there are also, for example, Starbucks and Amazon and UPS, they restrict where you can go, and they have, like one of them, we have 250 majors. Well, you may want to major in something else, but it's definitely worth finding out that information. And you have to look through it, you have to go through it. So, I think that's it on student aid. Do we have other questions on student aid? So one more. In the information that we're going to send you, I think there's a link to a list of scholarship places where you can look up for scholarships. If not, I'll make sure that I'll send you one, because you could be a person that works on a farm, and so you get the scholarship from the gardening club. There are a huge number of scholarships. Some of you come from programs where they helped you look for scholarships. I used to work at JBS, and we had somebody that worked one-on-one with students to try to find other scholarships for them. So, but you can do that research also for yourself. Okay, next. This was our question. Oh, one more question on student aid. Okay. I'm going to ask everybody this. Where did they go?
This is a really good question.
Did you just
Here they
say
are.
goodbye to everybody?
No, they're there. When I share a screen, it disappeared for some reason. And of course, it's never happened.
Okay.
So,
So we can,
no,
No,
don't do that.
no,
Don't do
no.
that. No. How to stop sharing? Can I stop
Stop
sharing
sharing
screens? Yeah.
There.
I have a question for everybody. Does anybody know their financial aid officer at college?
No, see a lot of shaking of heads.
You're all shaking their head. Okay. Do you know how to find out who your financial aid officer is?
I think so.
So
Maybe.
if you're at Bunker Hill, click on financial aid, click your way through. Make sure, even if you haven't filled out the FAFSA yet, go meet a financial aid officer, because each person's situation is different. And the financial aid officer is the person that can help you We're just giving you the big picture, but you need to make sure you know your financial aid officer. And you need them to know who you are. And you know how many students are at Bunker Hill. They have a zillion students. But if you're the one that calls them and reminds them and asks them questions, then you will get the help you need. But and in the United States, in Bunker Hill, that's fine to do. Okay? You can become a pest. You can bother them. Make friends with them. Bring them a coffee. But that's really where your information is going to come from about your specific thing. Because we don't know how each of your stories. I have one more question for you before we're going to go on to budgeting. How many people look at their email, not your text, not your Twitter, not your WhatsApp? How many people look at your email every day? Yay! Yay! That's really important too. That's where the information about financial aid is going to come to you. They're not gonna Twitter you.
Text.
They're not gonna text you. They're gonna reach you through your email. And yeah, one of our kids didn't get a job because he didn't look at his email enough. And he got a job offer, but looked at his email too late. Don't be like my kids. Okay? Be smarter than that. Be old-fashioned. Look at your email at least once a day. Okay, now we're gonna go on to budgeting.
Yeah. So, and towards the end of this, we'll also get back to the question on investments, but again, we want to make sure that people understand what a budget is and how it's really a tool for you to help you meet some goals or meet your goals. There's also some important concepts when you think about your budget and your expenses. Understand what's a fixed cost, and we'll get into some examples of that, and what's more variable. By variable meaning it could change month to month. And then talk about some concepts around needs and wants versus, I forget if we left the word off what we were talking about, but that's okay. We'll get back to that. Let's see.
So that's a fixed and variable.
Yeah. So just to start off, can anybody give an example of a fixed cost?
They're lost somewhere. I don't know why the other screen isn't there.
But if maybe
They can all see you.
when we're asking these questions right now, because we're having a little difficulty, I can't see you right now. If you send a chat, then Brian can
Or you
answer.
can unmute yourself and just yell.
Yeah, that works probably better.
What's a fixed cost?
My mortgage,
Yes!
Great example. Your mortgage, your rent, for those who are
We have
renting.
car insurance was added to the chat.
Car insurance, good
my
example.
phone, my phone bill,
Your phone, okay. What about a variable cost? What's a example of a variable cost?
Electricity?
Well, electricity, that's, you
It can
know,
be fixed sometimes.
no, that's a good example.
But-
How much you use changes month to month, though that isn't a variable cost. What are some others?
gas,
Gas, yeah. All the utilities, gas for your car. So as we start to talk about budgeting, we'll come back around on these concepts, but the high level idea here, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, is every month there's certain expenses that you have to pay. Your electric bill, the mortgage or your rent. There's other things that you make choices about. So this gets into needs and wants and what's a luxury, what's a necessity. Paying the mortgage is a necessity. Paying the car insurance is a necessity. Maybe going out to dinner is maybe a luxury, right? You can make choices about that. So let's, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think what we'll do next, we've got another short video here. Oop, I'm going to turn it over to you because I'm not clicking. There we go. We're going to watch this video and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about why budgets are good tools and how they can help you meet your goals. But let's,
That's my thing.
what's that?
That's my bag.
That's your bag, okay. Yeah, we took this particular video from Bank of America, and I will say their Better Money Habits section, if you're starting to look for a question, or you have questions on different areas of finance, or your own personal finances, they have a lot of good material out there.
How to set a budget and stick to it. A budget is a tool you need to help you stretch your paycheck as far as it'll go. And all it takes is just a little bit of discipline, planning, and most importantly, prioritization. While creating a budget may seem overwhelming at first, the time you spend putting it together will certainly be worth it when the process of paying your monthly bills becomes a little less stressful. So, where do you start? Well, setting a goal is always a good place to begin. It gives you something to shoot for, and then, of course, making a plan that's going to set you in motion. So here's how to do that in 6 easy steps. Step 1. Know your income. Seems simple enough, right? But knowing how much you can spend each month starts with knowing how much you take home. That means you can't build your budget based on your salary. It should be based on your net income. So get out some pay stubs and see what you're clearing after taxes, insurance, 401k contributions, and other stuff like that. Step 2. Determine your basic expenses. Figure out what your fixed expenses are every month. These are the things that don't fluctuate or change dramatically throughout the year, like rent or mortgage payments, good old car payments, insurance, and student loans. This is also a good time to make sure you have some kind of safety net to help you pay for these expenses in case of an emergency, like if you need a new water heater or your car needs a new transmission. Step 3. Determine expenses that vary each month. These are the things that change based on usage, like your phone and other utilities, as well as your grocery bill. That could change. You could also add up all those flexible expenses, like clothes, restaurant meals, and entertainment costs. These are the costs that you have control over. Step 4. Determine what's really important. When it comes to creating a budget that works, you have to take a really hard look at what you feel is truly necessary. As much as you like to think you can't live without the latest gadget, this type of expense should go into the like-to-have category. So if you want to find the fluff in your budget, start digging into your variable expenses and rank what's most important to you. Do you really need unlimited texting on your cell phone? If not, get rid of it. Are you watching all the 437 channels of cable? No? Downgrade to basic. Step 5. Follow your spending and review monthly. You want to give your budget a fighting chance, right? So keep an eye on your wallet, and especially those credit cards, to make sure you're spending within limits throughout the month. It's easy to forget, right? And even easier for the small things to start adding up, so keep on it. Step 6. Keep track. Find a way that works for you to keep track of your expenses. That can mean the old pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or one of those new fancy fun budgeting apps. A lot of banks have these as part of their online banking. They are easy to find and use, so be sure to look for them. Then you just balance your budget. Keep your income information current and track your actual expenses monthly. After a few months, you'll start to see patterns. Then you can figure out where you can streamline and make adjustments. Now, if you don't want to go it alone, there are some sites all over the internet to help you analyze what you have coming in and what you're spending. All in all, making a budget is a process that will take some time and effort. But put these steps into place, and what you'll get in return is well worth it. Before long, you can have more money for the things you want, in addition to the things you need.
What were you saying?
So before we go on, he talks really fast. Do you want to see it again, or do you want to keep going?
If you're gonna send this to us, it's okay, but I would
It's
love
okay.
to see again if you're not gonna see it first.
Okay.
Junior, you're a little echoey. Can you repeat that?
I just said, if you're gonna send to us all this information, it's okay, but if you're not gonna send to us, I'd like to see again.
Okay, look, we are gonna send it to you.
Oh,
And let me, why don't we walk through the major things that you just heard? And,
He just wants to turn out.
Yeah, I know.
so in the video, they talked about the steps to creating a budget. And if you remember, the first step was to figure out what is your income. And again, what we're looking here is that what's the other way to think about this is what's your take-home pay, right? What do you take home? Was there a question on the screen?
No, the text is a little high. It's being cut off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. We're working out the bugs.
Okay.
It's because he's too tall.
I'll bring it down a little bit. Ooh. Oh, 1 second here. Okay. So step one, know your income. Pretty straightforward. What you have to spend every month. Number two. Oh, was there a question?
No, number 2, expenses.
Expenses, correct. And at a high level, you want to know, are your expenses less than your income? If they're not, you're going into debt. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. However you're doing that, with a credit card, which we'll talk about next, borrowing money from other people, however you're doing it. If you're fortunate in that your income is more than your expense, you have some excess every month. This is simple math, right? So there's kind of two places to go from here. In this situation where you're going into debt, this is where you can start to use a budget, as it was talked about in the video, to see patterns in your expenses, to identify areas where you can save some money. Short term, you can save money maybe by changing how much you spend on groceries next week. Longer term, frankly, everything is variable. So if you're paying, $1,200 a month in rent, can you find an apartment for $1,000 a month, right? So over a longer term, that's just an example, you can affect how much you spend on almost every expense. Recognizing that you have to live somewhere, right? And that you can't get rid of all expenses. That's not the goal. The goal is just to try to help you see over time opportunities to save money. And we're going to come back around and talk about, well, what do you do if you're in that fortunate situation where your expenses are less than your income? Barb, was there anything else on that before we move to the next?
Nope.
Okay.
Are there questions?
So-
Questions? There's a Maria, is that a hand up?
No, that's been up there.
Oh.
I guess Brian.
No, it works. I have to bring
Yeah,
the
because
cursor
to
back.
take me to the
It should
next-
work now.
Oh, it'll work now?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so cutting examples. Here's one example we just wanted to go over just to make the point. So if every day of every weekday of every week you go to Dunkin' Donuts and get your coffee for $2, it's going to cost you $520 a year in coffee. If, however, you make coffee at home and put it in a thermos or a mug and head off to work or school with your coffee, it may cost you only $130 a year. So by changing, you're not changing the amount of coffee you're drinking, you're just changing how you get it. And you can, in this scenario, save almost $400 a year. So what we wanted to do, and I don't know, Brian, if we can do breakout groups. So what we would want you to do is just take a couple of minutes. You two can be a group because you're here in the room. But if the rest of you in your groups can talk about what are some ideas you would have, just thinking about it, in terms of things that you could do now to save money. Coffee's one example, but it's just one expense. Are there other things that you can identify that would result in, you know, $400 is a significant amount of money, right? So are there other things you can think about? And then we'll come back in the breakout room. We'd love to hear some of your ideas just to help people, to help others, you know, start to think about your own situation, hearing from each other. So why don't we take, I don't know where we are in time.
Can take 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll have you come back and we'll ask you to give some examples.
Great, so I'm gonna put everybody in breakout rooms of 3. So if your camera's off and you're not there, it's gonna be very awkward, so do the best you can. And just brainstorm, like, you can be creative about how we do this. Yeah. Okay, so 10 breakout rooms. You said. Might have some good quick mental math.
Yeah,
That
let's
was
do that.
too fast.
So when you mute her, she stays on like a red line. So she's going, yeah.
Everybody's got a bite.
What's that?
Everyone's got a buddy. Everyone's in a breakout room. There's one person. That's good. I don't know what's happening with the share screen when we can't see people. It's never happened before. And instead of like getting stressed about it, and I'm just, we're rolling with it.
Yeah.
Most everyone's here. And there's a minute, it takes a minute to close the rooms, as you probably know. So.
Yeah. It gets a little thin, it's actually about seconds or.
Yeah. We just did this with my daughter a little bit. It was like a horse show that would have been like, usually they're like $200 a horse show, and we do like just a couple a year. If there was one that she wanted to go to, but it was like kind of network, so we would have to pay to transport overs, would have been $600, and we were like, you choose, do you want to do 3, or do you want to do 1? And she was like, I want to do 3. And we didn't have to tell her to do it, but we gave her a little budget, and she made the right decision. I thought it was a good decision. I wasn't gonna pay for anything, but I at least wanted her to, I was like, please say no. Yeah.
Because like I see that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I missed your wedding, there's, you know, you just have half of it, and trash like that, and like energy, yeah.
Yeah, about half our scholars every year are new, like roughly, you know, we have like 32, so about half are new. And, you know, they're just taking one or two, maybe 3 classes, but usually one or two. And so the scholarship covers it, and so I think the first year, they're kind of figuring out, and as you can see, most of them don't like, and we send this information to them like weekly, I send like stuff to them. And, you know, especially they don't really have time together. And it's very hard for students like to make a meeting, and there's a barrier, and they kind of give up because, you know, they don't make it that first year. But we work really hard to try to get them those appointments, and,
Yeah.
but it's Terry and I, essentially, you know, and Terry's raising the money, and, you know, I manage 3 different programs, and, yeah. That was my first job out of college. I was a financial aid officer at a small school in New Hampshire, and I like loved it. It was so interesting to me to like help people figure out their finances, and I did some advising and I helped them fill out the FAFSA, and I figured that out. That was my first job out of college, which was
A little while ago.
Yeah. That was in paper. That was like filling out the boxes, and then like I had to enter, you know, the financial aid people had to enter them into the system. So it was like paper to online, like we didn't mail them into the government.
Right.
You gonna close these rooms?
Yeah, I think we're,
Good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been about 5 minutes.
Yes.
One of my students saved money by cheating really hard to do it to their parents that have gone. This, I have cases.
All right. Okay. Are people back?
40 seconds.
40 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
People aren't, when they close, you can leave immediately, or if you're still talking, it gives you a little bit of time to transition.
Okay.
My partner was not able to talk, so I just made my list.
Oh, no. Okay. Okay.
But I made my list already.
Yay.
All right. Oh, are we back?
We're back.
Okay, we're back. So I'd love to hear some ideas. What do people come up with?
We just were talking about before about subscriptions like Netflix, Amazon Prime, stuff like that. So like people spend a lot of money on the year on subscriptions and they don't realize.
Yeah, at home, we started to like, if there's a show, like I wanted to watch the last season of The Walking Dead. Okay. It's controversial, but we bought the AMC Plus for a month, and I made sure I was like, all right, I'm paying, it was like $30, and and it's hard to remember to turn it off. So I have Google Calendar, and I'm sorry to add
No,
something.
that's a good.
So I put I always, when I sign up for a subscription, I always put in my calendar, whatever it is, 2 weeks or a month later, a reminder to shut it off, because I have forgotten, and it cost me like $100, because I forget for 3 months.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've heard I don't know this, but I've heard there's services that will actually go out there and find what you subscribed to and forgot about.
Yeah.
And you keep paying. That's a good one. Any others?
Yeah, I have some, yeah. I think think actually I gained 20% because I can just changing to buy grocery shopping from one market to another market. I save 20%.
Okay,
Yeah.
Where did you
and-
switch from and to, Junia?
Yeah, I switched because, for example, some markets, they are very fancy and they have, of course, but most of them, they have the same brand and the same quality, but for low price. One is unbelievable, for example, for me, I don't know if I can do a marketing, they're not paying me anything, but I switched from Whole Food and Charles to Market Basket. Something they have the same brand, exactly the same. And they said they have some days they have a specific price. Another thing saves a lot of money is I do a fidelity for a gas station. Sometimes you pay 20 cents less for me.
Oh, you pay cash?
yeah,
Pay cash for your gas.
Yeah, for example, I have the fidelity for the Shell or BJ. You pay much
Yeah.
less and make every time I go to the gas station more. And I cook at home, and so I allow to go with my husband once, twice a week. For the rest of us, sometimes most of the time once a week, but we cook at home. And we have your own coffee, you make our own lunch and dinner. We do a class together, make a book for to cook together. And so it's fun. It's something like an activity for winter time. Just idea.
okay. Well, I was gonna say,
I'm having a trouble
I
understanding.
think the basic idea is eating out less, right? Going out to restaurants less, so.
And clothes, for example, if you buy, here I know that the consumer is a lot, but when you buy things with more quality, it's more expensive, but you have the same thing next year for the summer, next winter. You don't have to buy things all the time, every month, because it's not good quality.
Not sure how I would capture that. Can I ask, are there other people that have a few ideas?
Someone just put one in the chat.
Yeah, in the chat, Yane says bring food from home for lunch instead of
Oh,
ordering
bring your
lunch.
lunch.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
But I started doing it mostly because I didn't want to have to decide where to go for lunch. But then it's a big money
Yeah.
saver.
Yeah. Anything in here? What do you guys think?
Yes, we have, we talk about electric gadgets.
Ah.
Let's stay connected.
Yeah,
Unplug your electric gadgets.
yeah, so in case you didn't hear that on Zoom, if you leave everything plugged in when you go on vacation, it actually can drain quite a bit of energy that you end up paying for.
And even
all your
the day to
chargers.
day, unplug your charger when you're not charging,
Yeah.
because it's using electricity.
Yeah.
We have a few chats.
Okay.
To public transportation saves a lot of
Okay.
money. Owning a car is very expensive. And I'm saving with the TV channel, which I don't know what the TV channel is. Maria, do you want to explain that? Maybe I'll learn something about how to waste my time better.
Well, you don't need cable.
Yes, instead to pay a lot of channels,
Yeah,
I pay just for internet. And
Yeah.
the only thing I like is watch my news, the news, and I have access. And I save half maybe what? Instead of pay 120, I pay $60.
Instead of cable TV, you'd say like no cable TV.
no cable.
Yeah, instead they have a lot of. I
Yeah,
don't know if you understand me.
yeah,
Yeah, we understood.
Let's go back to the public transportation thing. That if you can save enough money to buy a monthly pass, it's really cheaper than if you're paying,
Sure.
even if you're buying a Charlie card and buying 5, if you can get a monthly, it's my father used to say sometimes it takes money to make money. But, so you save up the money from your electric bill for bringing your lunch, and use that money to buy a monthly pass for the train, and you'll save a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Fougere says, don't let the credit accumulate interest. Try to pay it back in full and pay it on time.
Yes. And we're going to talk about that one in a minute. These are all good ideas, and I just, what we wanted you to start thinking about, things that you do and maybe ways you can save. As we talked about high level, if your income is less than your expenses, you're going into debt. Debt by itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. You go into debt to buy a house, you have a mortgage. You may go into debt to finance your education. Those are all things that are going to, in terms of your education, it helps you get a better job. You may have higher income in the future based on your education. A mortgage for a house typically, not always, appreciates in value. So borrowing money or going to debt for those types of expenses can make a lot of sense. You just need to do it in a smart way to make sure that you can handle those expenses. The other thing that people typically go into debt for is cars. And that's a hard one because a car depreciates. Over time, a car goes from whatever you paid to zero. It's not worth anything by the time you're done with it. So borrowing for a car, you might have to do it because it's a lot of money up front, but it's something you have to be careful about. And then frankly, I'm very conservative. I don't like borrowing money. So borrowing for almost anything else, I have a hard time thinking about. So I'll be upfront with that.
I just wanted to, you used two terms, Mr. Johnson.
sorry.
He said appreciates, which besides being well, we like it. Your house will appreciate in value, goes up and then depreciate. Your car, this is your house, this is your car.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, it's quite the car.
It's a Tesla.
Yeah, it's a Tesla.
Okay.
Yeah, goes down. Put it down there.
Goes down.
So using a budget, and again, the other thing the person in the video talked about is keeping track of your expenses. You can do that with a little spiral notebook. You can do it on your phone. You can do it in a lot of different ways. But the idea is to be, at least for a while, until you get more familiar with your own spending patterns, be very sort of consistent about identifying your expenses. And then you will potentially start to see areas where you may choose to do things differently. One of the ideas that we talked about is, eating out less. So not going out to a fancy meal every once in a while may feel like you're depriving yourself. But if you have a goal, the reason you're doing that is to save money, and we're going to talk briefly about what you're going to do with it, then you're not depriving yourself, you're frankly helping yourself meet a goal. And psychologically, that feels a lot better. So one of the things that doing a budget and managing your finances this way does, frankly, it helps you meet your goal because you're motivated by it. You can see the progress that you're making as you go through life.
One of the things, I'm going to say one thing about it. One of the things that I had my students do is for a week, write down what they spent that day. Because you just have no idea what you're putting that card out on. And you guys could do it, and you could do it right after you check your email. So every day, check your email and write down what you spent that day. And at the end of the week, you're gonna have a little picture of where the money's going, and you might be surprised. And then you can think, oh, I can save, I can stop doing this, or I can stop doing that. Yeah.
Okay. So, wanted to spend a few minutes talking about what do you do with your savings? So you've done a budget, you've identified where you can save some money on it every week or every month. You've got a little left over at the end of the month. What do you do with it? One of the things in the video they mentioned, and they didn't talk about it very much, is an emergency fund. What's an emergency fund?
I have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That would be
Go
one.
into the hospital. Or if you lose your job and you need to pay your rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea of emergency fund is exactly that. For unexpected expenses, like you end up in the emergency room and get a bill out of that. You lose your job. How about the car breaks down? You know, so there are a lot of different, if you start looking on the internet or read any books or whatever about finances, people will give you different rules of thumb about how big an emergency fund should be. This is one of personal comfort level, honestly. Some people are very conservative. They want to have an emergency fund that would cover 6 months worth of expenses. That's a lot of money. You'll often see a recommendation of like 3 months. So what is that? Well, if you go back to your budget, you know that you spend X on rent, your mortgage, groceries, whatever it is. Whatever that number is, let's say it's $2,000 a month, this would suggest you want an emergency fund of $6,000, whatever the math is. Now, what do you do with an emergency fund? Based on the nature of what we're talking about, you're going to want to keep it either in a very safe kind of investment, right? So a savings account, a checking account,
Under your mattress.
under your mattress, locked up, you know, but you don't want to have it in something like a retirement. If you have a retirement plan at work that your company contributes to or you contribute to, that's not an emergency fund. You can't get that really quickly. So again, a rule of thumb, you'll see it all over the map, 2-3 months worth of expenses. That's your first investment. Any questions about that?
Or having that could be your first financial goal.
That could, exactly. Having an emergency fund could be goal number 1. Then there was a question, we're not going to get too much of it in today, so I'm just going to kind of run over it quickly. What do you do next? So you have an emergency fund. You'll see different lists of what to do next. One would be if you have high interest debt, like credit card debt. Pay it off. So high interest rate debt. Sorry, my handwriting is not great. But pay off your credit cards. That's the easiest way to say this one. That's number 2. Number 3, if you work at a company that has a 401k plan and they match your contribution, that's free money. That's number 3. And this is getting a little beyond the scope of tonight, but once you've done this, you have an emergency fund, you paid off your credit cards, and you've taken whatever free money your company is offering you, then you start to think about other investments. But that's a little beyond the scope of tonight. Was there a question? Or?
Yeah, there's a chat question from Hajara. Can an emergency fund be in cash or on a card? I'm assuming she means like having $10,000 of credit available, but I'm not sure what she means exactly.
Okay. So having
what I meant is it advisable to have emergency fund or in cash, or it's supposed to be on card? Maybe it could be like debit card or something. That's what I meant.
In a bank.
Oh, in a bank. Yes,
Yeah.
I meant in a bank. That's the number 1 choice for where you want your emergency fund, in a bank. And you can get it through your ATM card or your debit card, or write a check, or go to the bank and withdraw, but that's where you want your emergency fund.
I think that's actually a question. Does everybody have a bank account? Do people have bank accounts?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I know there are now all online bank accounts, and those have fewer barriers to entry, so that's where you can have it.
Yeah.
All right, we better move on.
Yeah, we better move on.
We gotta get you on a credit card debt now. So let's flip to the next one. So who's got a credit card? Does anybody want a credit card? I have a credit card. I lost the faces. Then do some people have credit cards?
See your
I
hands
see
up.
some hands, I see some nods, all right.
Okay.
So, they can see this, right?
Yeah.
No, do we have to turn that thing on?
What's that?
The board?
Oh, the board.
They can still see the share screen now though, but
Oh, okay.
they'll see you better.
There we go.
There we go. So, credit cards, you have two participants raised hands, meaning, okay. What's a credit card? Why is it useful? How do you use it? Well, how do you use it? You go here, you go there. So remember my wonderful picture of the bank? Is this, can I turn this over?
You gotta turn it over again.
Okay. So a credit card is a loan. It looks like you think you have money, but you really have a loan, and that's important to remember. That's what a credit card is. What?
Yeah. Correct.
So, the bank pays your debt, and then you have to pay the bank, and you have to pay them interest. And the thing about credit card interest is it's very often high, like 17%, 19%. So is there questions? It's
Well,
pretty straightforward.
let's show the video.
Let's look at the video and then we'll.
Like yeah. It's showing this because that's stuff like I might be like that. I think I remember on.
Anybody can hear the sound?
No.
Can you guys not hear the sound? I think I forgot to.
I do.
Yeah, we'll start it over. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. If you can't hear it again, do that. Just let me know, but it should work now.
Meet Jasmine. Jasmine is a college student attending State University. Like many college students, Jasmine has a lot of things she needs to buy: books, laundry baskets, food, and so on. And she can pay for those things with two types of money: debit or credit. Debit is money that comes from a personal bank account. Credit is money that is lent to you by your bank. For example, let's say Jasmine has been using a credit card. Each time Jasmine uses
The sound.
The sound, now the video is not working. Okay. Oh, I know why. Okay, third time's a charm. It's late, 7 o'clock.
bank is loaning her the money. While that sounds nice, be warned. the bank isn't giving Jasmine this money for free. They expect her to pay a certain amount of money each month, called interest, if she doesn't totally pay off her balance by the due date. As you can imagine, this can get very expensive very quickly, especially when factoring in the high annual interest rates, or APRs, that are charged by these companies. However, there is a solution to this rather scary problem. As long as Jasmine always pays off her balance in full by the monthly due date, she'll never pay a cent of interest. Jasmine is shocked and thrilled, but still isn't quite sold on credit cards. After all, with all their flaws, are they really worth using? The short answer, as long as you avoid running up a balance, definitely. So why is that? Well, free money for starters. Most credit cards offer their users rewards, like cashback or airline miles, each time they make a purchase. For example, let's say Jasmine's credit card comes with 2% cashback. That means if Jasmine spends $500 per month, then at the end of the month, she'll automatically get $10 back, no questions asked. Then, if that wasn't good enough, responsibly using a credit card also allows Jasmine to build a great credit score. This is a calculated number between 300 and 850 that summarizes your credit history, covering everything from your payment history to the age and status of your accounts. While we'll teach you more about your credit score, including how to get and improve it, in our next video, Credit Scores and Reports 101, just know for now that most credit cards actually require a credit score of at least 600, plus at least $15,000 in annual income and a reasonable debt payment to income ratio, generally below 36%. However, thankfully for Jasmine, who lacks both credit history and a full-time job, she shouldn't have a problem getting a student credit card. In fact, the online application will take all of 5 minutes. She'll just have to be a full-time student of at least 18 years of age, with either a small amount of income, like from a part-time job, or a credit-worthy cosigner. However, at this point we have to say, be careful. Taking on a cosigner is no small matter. The account is still in your name, so any credit mistakes are on you and your cosigner. Plus, your cosigner is even liable for any of your missed payments. If Jasmine isn't quite ready for that level of responsibility, she can instead be added as an authorized user to her family's account. Not only will this allow her to get her own credit card, but in a few short months, the credit bureaus will treat her parents' credit score as her own. Sounds pretty great, right? Well, this strategy isn't a cure-all. Even though Jasmine isn't liable for payments on the account, her parents still are. Plus, many lenders will want to see you successfully handling credit on your own before giving you a major loan. Hopefully you and Jasmine now understand the basics of credit cards. Be sure to watch our next video, which covers everything you need to know about credit scores, and be sure to check out our website, where you can find more educational materials, your free credit score, and great credit card recommendations.
Sure.
Cinnamon Toast Cereal with zero sugar?
Alrighty. Oh, where were we? We're down a little far. Oh, yeah, there we go.
That one?
Oh, no, okay, number 10. Yeah, let's go there. Start there. Okay. So that was really quick. But the idea of credit card, I think the key takeaways from that discussion are there likely as a student are ways for you to apply and qualify for a card, but using them, again, people talked about it in terms of the saving money, you have to be very careful. If you use a credit card to help for convenience and you're able to pay off the balance every month, you'll never be charged interest. But just to give you an example, I'm going to go turn this on again. So credit cards, most credit cards do not have fees associated with them. There are some out there, you have to be careful. You pay $100 a year to have a credit card from American Express or other issuer. There are a lot of cards with zero annual fee. So let's just put that aside and assume you have a card with no annual fee. As Bart talked about though, they have high interest rates. The example I have on this particular card is the interest rate is 15.99%. Now, when you get your credit card bill, again, hopefully what you're doing is paying the full balance off every month. But if you don't, what happens? A credit card will come with a minimum monthly payment. Typically, those are $25 or $35 a month. So the minimum payment in this example is, I think this one's $25. So what happens? Person in this case bought a computer, and they bought some software, and they had taxes and everything, and the balance on the card at the end of the month was $827.32.
That's how much the computer and everything costs.
That's how much it cost. So, can anybody guess, if you only paid the minimum payment, how long is it going to take to pay off the balance? Anybody know?
Can I use a calculator?
You can try.
35, 36, 37, like 38 months.
With no interest,
No, that's with some interest.
with some interest.
32 months.
2 months?
32.
22.
32.
32. You're pretty close. The
32 months with no interest.
The actual answer is 4 years. It would take 4 years to pay off this balance, $827 and change, at an interest rate of 15.99%. So paying $25 every month equals 4 years, and the total you're going to pay is $1,113. So your $827 computer actually cost you $1,113, or another $286. The $286 is the interest.
We have some emojis from tears up there right now.
So I wanted to use this example because the interesting thing about this and the way interest works, if instead of $25 a month, I pay $29 a month, so I pay $4 more a month. In the interest of time, I'll just give you the answer. You then pay it off in 3 years. So it was only $4 more a month, but I cut a year off the payments. And the total I pay is $1,056. Meaning I ended up paying $229 in interest. So I saved $57 in interest, and I cut a year off my payments by paying an extra $4. And we could go into the math around all that, but this example will hold true for pretty much any card in any amount. So goal number 1 is to pay the balance off 100% every month, so you never pay interest. But if you can't, don't pay the minimum, pay what you can to get that balance down as quickly as you can. And that will minimize how much extra you pay for that computer or the groceries or whatever it was that month when you needed to borrow money from the bank. Okay? So, we're going to summarize this quickly. So, credit cards can be good. And I think rather than making this a participatory thing, I'm just going to run through it. Okay? So, it helps you buy things you need. Even if you don't have the money right now to pay for it, right? You don't carry a lot of cash, you have the card, that's a little safer, right? It can help you keep track of your expenditures. We talked earlier about keeping a little book. Well, when you get your credit card statement, that can help you understand where you're spending money. And it can help you build a good credit rating. Again, making your payments every month on time Even if you're not paying it off, but you're making your payments timely, that will help you with a good credit score.
Yes, sure, yeah.
Credit cards also cannot be, so good potentially. They can cause you some problems. If you don't pay the whole bill, like we just talked about, it's going to cost you more. We talked about a computer, but the pair of jeans that I bought for, $50 could cost me $60 or more. It's easy to spend a lot, right? Cash is its own, has its own limits. You don't have any more cash in your pocket, you can't spend it. But a credit card, obviously you can. If you don't pay attention, you can lose track of the spending. Again, this gets back to budgeting and keeping track. And finally, if you don't make your payments, you're going to have a bad credit score, and that's going to hurt you when you go to borrow money for something else or in the future. So I know that was quick. We want to spend a few minutes on scams, and then we'll hopefully have a few minutes for questions at the end. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a scam is. Hopefully none of you have been scammed. We want you to understand the different ways people will try to scam you, and then things that you can do to protect yourself. So a lot of scams, at least attempted scams that come at me personally, I get them through emails, or more and more these days I'm getting texts that are scam texts. And how do you know that something's a scam? And hopefully you can see this on your screens. I know the type is small, but I'll go through some of these. First of all, this says on the example from my bank. So I happen to bank at Bank of America as well. So sometimes I'll get an email that says Bank of America, and it'll use either there won't be a space between bank and of, or it'll somehow be messed up, right? It'll be an incorrect, or if I look at the email address, I can see on the URL or the string of letters that it's not Bank of America, it's something else. They won't use your name oftentimes. They'll say, dear customer, or have some other funny kind of introduction to the email. They may have misspelled words or awkward wording. You read it and say, oh, that doesn't sound right, They will ask for some sort of information from you. They're asking for something back, right? And oftentimes they'll say, don't call, click on the link. Don't click on the link. That's the number one thing you can do to protect yourself. Unfortunately, my mother last week called me and she's almost in tears. I clicked the link. And suddenly they took her email address list, and they're sending out to all her friends an email that said, please help. And it had its own link. It was a mess. But don't click the link. So those are email and text. Other things that, other kind of common scams. Frankly, I hadn't heard of this one, fake apartment listing.
Yeah, that's very common. That happened to me and my dad once. And we even sent the security deposit, but we got it back, thank God.
You were lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky. So for those of you who haven't had that experience, typically there will be a listing. It looks legitimate. But when you talk to the agent, for some reason, you can't go see the apartment right now, but it's perfect. But somebody else is going to take it. So if you want it, you've got to send a deposit. Don't send the deposit, right? Don't get caught up in the emotion of the moment. That's what the scammers are counting on. So try to independently verify that the apartment's there. Do what you can, and the bottom line of a lot of these things, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Yeah. Fraudulent scholarships, fraudulent scholarships, sometimes improper job offers, or you've won a sweepstakes. These three oftentimes will say, but to get the scholarship, to get the sweepstakes, we need you to send in a processing fee, right? Or they'll ask for personal information. Again, scammers will either look for money directly or get enough information about you to fraudulently, get money, take out a credit card or do other things in your name. unpaid tuition claims or any unpaid bill. Unfortunately, Barb's mother was scammed by somebody who said, this is the IRS, you haven't paid your taxes. We only found out about it because she asked Barb for a bunch of cash. And it's like, why
Are
do
you kidding me?
why do you need the money? And the Brookline police were great in taking care of that problem, but you know, it was very easy. They preyed on her.
Yeah, well, some scammers look for old people.
Right.
My mom was an old person, but,
Yeah.
it's really also that call that says your child really needs you.
Yeah, that's this one
Get
down
that
here.
call.
Yeah, like my mother's, all the emails were saying, can you help me? Can you sell me some money? You know, that was that one. I was getting calls for a while from somebody saying, you haven't paid your electric bill. Well, our electric bill's on auto pay, and know it's paid, and I swore at them and hung up. But I was getting a lot of those. Yeah, so
How to check, for example, for the electric bill?
So you go to your electrical account, and there's a customer service number. Call them and ask them, am I up to date? Like, don't respond, just say, oh, thank you, I will check.
And hang up.
Hang up, and then if you're worried about it, the same thing with if you get a call about your credit card or something, hang up, look at the number at the back of your credit card, call and talk to them.
Yeah, don't use the number you get in one of these emails or they give you a number.
Don't give them any information,
Right.
just like, somebody called the other day, you know how you can answer the phone in the car, through the car? And they said, oh, this problem, that problem, this problem, you know, I'm gonna give you information, can you write it down? I said, no, I'm driving, I'll call you later.
So the, I don't know if we have time.
6, 7.
6 minutes? So in the information we're going to send, I think in terms of time, we ran out of time, so I apologize for that. But this little video, again, from Bank of America, the Better Money Habits. If you go to Bank of America, they have it right on. You don't even have to be a client or a customer of the bank. You can get to these. But this video talks a little bit about some of your same questions. How do you protect yourself?
And there's also an attachment to a document, not a video, that has like, these are the most common things, and it explains each of them.
Yeah,
So
those examples I had on this page, a lot of these came from what Barb was talking about. It goes in a lot more detail, like how it works and what you can do to not fall victim to that.
Yeah, and how many calls am I now blocking? Because you're like, who is this?
Yeah. So we've kind of come to the end of our time. We have about 5 minutes left. Are there other questions?
Can you put back the link, please?
Oh,
The link from America.
I'll be sending.
Oh, he's going to send it out.
Yeah, just click them through.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and from those links, there's links to other things. So you can spend a lot of time going through the different topics. Any chats or questions? I didn't see.
Yeah, this is the time to ask you, and I'm sure if you think of questions later, then we could email them to you. Take advantage of, the people that are around you that have knowledge and want to help. Because this is very complicated, and half of this stuff I do well, and the other half I'm like, oh, I got it. So it's a process, and it takes work. But I congratulate everyone. Like, this is like you're caring for yourself now by being here and learning this, because the better you are with money, the less hard you have to work eventually. You can get a better job, you can afford that vacation, you can afford, all different things kind of as you move through your life, like these decisions. And it's really hard. Like my wife and I, we do a financial, once a month we meet, and it's all money talk. and we hate it. We're always like, can we push it off? And we're like, no, we're gonna do it, but we don't look forward to it. But we do better that way when monthly we can at least meet and do the bills together and talk. And so this thing is not easy. So, definitely reach out. If you have a question now, we have a few minutes, email it to me. I'm gonna email you the slides, so definitely look into them and, put some thought into it.
And find your financial aid advisor.
That's right.
Your best friend.
Yeah. At Bunker Hill, that's Student Central. If you go to Student Central, and I recommend calling, and you always say, oh, who am I speaking to? What's your name? What's your extension? And then you can make a buddy, that's really helpful, because then they do get money. They do get scholarships that are new in the middle of the year. And if they know you're looking, there's no guarantees, but it does not hurt to build that relationship with Student Central or your financial aid office at your community college. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
good luck.
Yeah. If there's a whole other topic that you want in the future, we could
We could do that.
do something else.
Yeah, and so.
Maybe one topic, not four.
Yeah, sorry we ran out of time there.
But you'll get the list and the links tomorrow, and what you'll see is once you look at one video, on the side of your computer will come and now you can watch this one, or now you can watch this one.
Yeah. Great.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Great job. I know it's late. Great job hanging in there. Thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Great to see you, Andy.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For example, and
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
What happened with your FAFSA?
I would have to look on that. I can't answer off the top of my head. Bill, it's a common thing. You may remember the younger than 24 but married. Do you know the parents are out?
The parents are out.
It's
Yeah.
just so you and your spouse.
Yeah. And you want to be out as a dependent as soon as you can, because it's better for you. It's worse for your parents.
Yeah.
Because they get a tax break.
Yeah.
But they, yeah.
Thank you very much.
But also then if your spouse.
Don't forget your burrito.
Yes.
Yeah. See, look at that. Come, you get a burrito, you save $100.
Thank
you.
It's like, well, your spouse can help you. Right, it's the